I used to believe that love settled over time, the same way dust settles on old furniture, quietly, naturally, without warning. I thought that waking up next to the same person for years would somehow fill the empty spaces inside me. I told myself that routine was a form of devotion, that loyalty alone could replace passion. Maybe I needed to believe that, because the alternative was admitting that something vital had died inside my marriage long before I had the courage to see it. My name is Daniel Harper. I live in Ridgefield Springs, a quiet little town where nothing changes unless someone forces it to. And for years, I never forced anything. I just let life carry me. My job at the bank, the weight of responsibility on my shoulders, the way people assumed I was a good man simply because I stayed. I stayed beside my wife, Claire, even after the warmth between us thinned into something pale and tired. I stayed because she needed me, because her health had always been fragile, because walking away felt cruel, almost inhuman. But staying and loving aren't the same thing. I learned that too late. Claire and I had been married for over 20 years. She was my partner for most of my adult life, kind, gentle, fragile in all the ways that make a man want to protect rather than desire. I cared for her. Maybe that's what made everything so confusing. I cared deeply. But care without passion becomes something else entirely. It becomes routine, obligation, a form of quiet grief you carry alone. And grief can disguise itself as loyalty if you let it. Most days, I woke before sunrise, slipped out of bed without waking her, and dressed in silence. The house always felt heavy in the mornings, as if it too were tired of pretending. I'd make coffee, listen to the old wood floors breathe beneath me, and watch the first light touch the kitchen window. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the glass, shoulders tense, jaw clenched, eyes searching for something that wasn't there. Then I'd convince myself it was enough. We had 2 children. Our oldest, Michael, was already married and living a few towns over. Our youngest, Emily, still lived with us, bright, sharp, and old enough to sense truths no one said out loud. She watched me with the kind of intuition only daughters seem to have, and sometimes I feared she saw more of me than I wanted anyone to see. At the bank, my days blended together. I worked as a teller, and Claire used to joke that the monotony suited me. Maybe she was right. Maybe I buried myself in routine because it made it easier to ignore what was missing. Day after day, I counted other people's money, smiled at familiar faces, and told myself I had everything a man was supposed to want: a home, a wife, children, stability. But the truth is, stability feels a lot like being stuck when your heart has stopped participating. It's strange how a person can feel lonely while sharing a life with someone. Claire and I slept in the same bed, shared the same meals, paid the same bills, but emotionally we lived in different countries. If she noticed the distance, she never said. Or maybe she sensed it and held on tighter, afraid to lose the one person she believed she still had. There were nights when she'd lean her head on my shoulder, grateful just for my presence, and I'd feel a sharp twist of guilt because all I could offer her was proximity. Not affection, not desire, not the fiery love we once had. I'd rest my hand over hers, pretending it meant more than it did, pretending I wasn't drifting farther away with every passing year. Her health didn't help. Claire had always been delicate. Chronic fatigue, recurring infections, little ailments that piled up like stones. When she weakened, she relied on me for everything, and that dependence became another chain I locked around my own heart. How could I leave someone who needed me just to breathe through the day? People in town admired me for how I cared for her. They called me devoted, loyal, the kind of husband every woman dreamed of. I let them believe it because it was easier than saying, I'm drowning in a life that doesn't fit me anymore. But the hardest truth, the one I never spoke out loud, was that I had stopped feeling like a husband. I had become a caretaker, a companion, a man performing the role people expected from him while quietly starving for something he no longer believed he had the right to want. And yet, I kept pretending. Pretending the quiet between us wasn't painful. Pretending her soft smiles didn't make me ache with guilt. Pretending I didn't crave something that felt alive. I thought I could live like that forever. Truly I did. I thought that choosing responsibility over desire made me honorable, that burying my own longing made me a good man. But the truth has a way of leaking through the cracks of even the strongest lies. And mine began to crack the moment someone else made me feel seen again. But that moment, when everything started to change, belongs to another chapter. I still remember the first time I really noticed her, not as a coworker, not as another teller behind the counter, but as a woman who stirred something in me I thought had died a long time ago. Her name was Samantha Cole, though everyone at the bank called her Sam. She had transferred from a branch in a nearby town after a staffing reshuffle, and her arrival barely caused a ripple at first. Ridgefield Springs is the kind of place where newcomers blend into the wallpaper until proven otherwise. But Sam didn't stay wallpaper for long. At the beginning, she was just the person who worked at the station beside mine. We exchanged polite greetings, small talk about customers, weather, and the slow grind of the workday. Nothing extraordinary. But some people enter your life quietly and only later reveal the gravity they carry. Sam was like that. A slow pull, subtle but deep. I didn't even notice I was drifting toward her until the current was too strong to fight. There was something about her presence, a liveliness that cut through the monotony of the bank's fluorescent lights and beige walls. While everyone else moved like clockwork, Sam had this way of making even the dullest moment feel warmer, as if she carried a private summer inside her. She laughed easily. God, that laugh. And every time she did, something in my chest loosened. Maybe it started with the way she listened, really listened. When she asked how my day was, she didn't look past me or pretend to care. She held eye contact, waited, wanted the truth. And when someone looks at you like your answer matters, it becomes harder to hide the parts of yourself you've neglected. One afternoon, during a lull between customers, she leaned slightly toward me and whispered, "You look tired today, Daniel. Long night?" It wasn't the question itself. It was the gentleness in her voice. Concern, not curiosity. And without thinking, I told her the truth. Claire hadn't been feeling well again. Another night of medication schedules, heated compresses, quiet reassurance. Another night of responsibility swallowing what was left of my identity. Sam didn't offer pity, and she didn't turn the conversation into drama. She simply nodded, her eyes softening in a way that felt like understanding. A small gesture, but it touched me more than I expected. People rarely looked at me that way anymore. Over the next weeks, our conversations stretched longer. She told me about her kids, 2 young boys, about her husband, who worked long hours fixing HVAC systems. She spoke of her life with a mix of exhaustion and affection. But beneath her words, I sensed something else. A tiredness that mirrored my own. Not just physical fatigue, but emotional hunger. The subtle ache of a woman who had spent years giving more than she received. It was strange how naturally we slipped into each other's emptiness. I found myself waiting for moments to talk to her. Short minutes between customers, coffee breaks, the quiet time right before closing. I began noticing small things. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. How her perfume lingered like a soft question. How she smiled sideways, like she was letting me in on something unsaid. But it wasn't until the day she cried at her desk that something inside me shifted completely. She had received a phone call, something about her youngest falling at school, nothing serious, but the tone in her voice cracked. When she hung up, she tried to compose herself, but one tear slipped down her cheek. Instinctively, I reached over and touched her hand. Just for a second. A small gesture meant only to comfort. But the electricity that passed between us, I hadn't felt anything like that in decades. She didn't pull away. Instead, she looked at me with a rawness that made my breath catch. Not desire, not yet, but recognition. Two people who had forgotten what emotional warmth felt like, suddenly rediscovering it in each other's presence. After that, everything changed. We started having lunch together in the break room. She'd bring homemade pasta or leftover roast chicken. I'd bring my usual sandwiches. We'd talk about life, dreams we no longer chased, the versions of ourselves we thought we'd become one day, but somehow never did. She made me laugh more in a week than I had in years. And slowly, dangerously, I realized I was waking up in the mornings with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anticipation. Not for the day, not for work, not for obligation, but for her. For the sound of her voice, the spark in her eyes, the way she gave color back to a world that had faded around me. I tried to tell myself it was harmless, just companionship, just two adults finding comfort in each other's company. But desire doesn't care about reason. It doesn't wait for permission. It grows silently, like a flame catching on dry wood. And somewhere between shared lunches, whispered conversations, and accidental touches that lingered a moment too long, I realized Sam wasn't simply someone I enjoyed being around. She was someone I had begun to need. If anyone had told me a year earlier that I would one day risk everything for a feeling, I would have laughed. Quietly, politely, the way a man does when he knows his life is too small for such recklessness. But desire makes fools of people who have spent their lives being careful. It slips in unnoticed, rewires your logic, and convinces you that one stolen moment of happiness is worth more than a lifetime of steady, predictable peace. With Sam, that moment happened slowly, then all at once. It began with lunches, shared jokes, a growing comfort between us that felt almost innocent. Almost. But innocence has a way of dissolving when you start imagining someone in your life beyond the boundaries of what is allowed. And I did. God help me, I did. I imagined her laugh echoing in my kitchen. I imagined her hand in mine during late-night drives. I imagined what it would feel like to be chosen, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of want. I had forgotten what want even felt like until she reminded me. The first shift, the one where everything changed, came on a Thursday afternoon. It had been a long day, the kind that drags your spirit across concrete. Sam had been unusually quiet. Her husband had snapped at her that morning over something trivial, and she was trying hard not to let it show. After we closed the bank, she lingered at her desk, pretending to reorganize paperwork. I stayed too, pretending I needed to balance my drawer for the third time. We weren't fooling anyone, not even ourselves. When she finally looked up, her eyes were tired in a way that felt familiar, like looking into a mirror. "You ever feel like you're living a life that's half yours?" she asked softly. The question slid under my skin. No one had ever put into words what I had been feeling for years. "Yes," I said, my voice low. More often than I'd like to admit. She exhaled shakily, a breath that felt like a confession. When I stepped closer, not touching, not yet, she didn't move away. We stood in that dim, silent bank lobby like two people who already knew the truth, but were pretending to discover it. And then, almost imperceptibly, her fingers brushed mine. A small touch. Barely anything. But it was enough to ignite every dormant part of me. Enough to tell me that this wasn't just emotional comfort anymore. It was longing. It was hunger. It was a spark we had both been circling for weeks without admitting it. That night, I went home to Claire and felt the weight of my double life pressing down on me. She was sitting on the couch under a blanket, pale from another day of fatigue, grateful simply because I was there, and I hated myself. I hated the man I was becoming. But even hating myself wasn't stronger than the pull I felt toward Sam. The next day, when she suggested grabbing coffee after work, just to clear our heads, I didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. We drove to a small cafe in the next town over, one where no one knew us. We talked for an hour about nothing and everything. She told me she missed feeling chosen, desired, important. I told her I missed feeling alive. Our hands brushed again. This time, neither of us pretended it was accidental. And when we walked back to her car, she stopped, turned, and looked at me with a question that didn't need words. I kissed her. God help me. I kissed her like a starving man tasting real food after years of scraps. She kissed me back with a desperation that matched mine, as if all the loneliness we had been carrying finally found a place to burn. It wasn't planned. It wasn't rational. It wasn't something either of us believed we were capable of, but it felt inevitable. The guilt came later, hours later, when I was lying in bed beside Claire, pretending to sleep while my heart raced with a mixture of shame and longing. I told myself it had been a mistake, a moment of weakness, something I could walk away from if I just tried hard enough. I promised myself that in the morning, I would pull away from Sam. I would set boundaries. I would end whatever this was becoming before it destroyed the life I had built. But morning came, and the first thing I thought about wasn't my promise. It was her eyes, her voice, the way she made me feel like a man again, not just a caretaker or a pillar holding up a crumbling home. When I walked into the bank and saw her look up at me, her cheeks flushed, her smile small and trembling, I knew I wasn't strong enough to walk away. Neither of us was. What we had wasn't love yet, not fully. It wasn't lust either, not just that. It was a dangerous happiness, fragile, intoxicating, and impossible to ignore. And once you taste that kind of happiness, pretending your old life is enough becomes nearly impossible. There are moments in life you spend years trying to forget, even though you know you never will. They carve themselves into your memory with a precision so cruel it feels surgical. For me, that moment came on a late Saturday afternoon, the day my daughter learned the kind of man her father really was. Claire had been sick again, worse than usual. She'd spent the last 2 days barely able to stand, exhausted to the point where even talking seemed to drain her. And I had been taking turns helping her, but that afternoon, Emily finally managed to convince her to sleep. When the house quieted, I told myself I just needed some air. But the truth is, I knew exactly where I was going. I texted Sam, asking if she could meet me behind the small grocery store in the next town. It was our usual spot, neutral, discreet, a place where the shadows worked in our favor. She said yes almost immediately. She always said yes. And God help me, that yes felt like oxygen. I told Emily I was heading to the bakery, a quick 5-minute trip. She nodded and went back to cleaning the kitchen. I grabbed my keys, my guilt, and left. Sam was already waiting when I arrived. She leaned against her car, arms folded, hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked tired, but her eyes lit up when she saw me, and that simple spark was enough to make every lie feel temporarily justified. We didn't say much at first. We just slid into my truck, closed the doors, and sat in the quiet, letting the relief of being near each other wash over us. Then she touched my hand. I pulled her closer. Her breath trembled. Mine too. And in that small, stolen space, the world outside ceased to exist. I kissed her, soft at first, then deeper, like my entire body had been waiting for that moment since dawn. The kind of kiss that feels like a confession and a surrender all at once. I didn't hear the footsteps. I didn't hear the truck door open, but I heard my daughter's voice. "Dad, what are you doing?" Her voice didn't sound like hers. It sounded older, strained, shocked, like the world she thought she understood had just tilted under her feet. I froze. Sam froze. I felt her pull away from me, but I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. When I finally turned, Emily was standing by the open door of the truck, her eyes wide, her face pale, her hands shaking. "Emily? Don't," she hissed, her voice cracking. "Don't you dare say my name like everything is fine." I had never felt so stripped, so exposed, so ashamed in my entire life. "Sweetheart, I can explain," I managed, though the words felt pathetic the moment they left my mouth. "Explain what?" she shot back. "Explain how Mom is sick at home and you're out here." Her voice broke. She covered her mouth for a moment, trying and failing to steady herself. "How could you do this to her? To us?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, because there was no explanation that didn't sound selfish or cruel. Sam shifted beside me, trying to speak. "Emily, I never meant—" "Don't talk to me," Emily snapped, her eyes blazing. "You're a married man, and you—" She shook her head, disgusted. "Both of you, this is disgusting." Sam wilted into silence. I felt the weight of Emily's disappointment crush me. "Please," I whispered, "just get in the truck. We'll go home. We'll talk." "No," she said firmly. "You're coming home. Now." I nodded, because what else was there to do? I gave Sam one last helpless look before climbing out of the truck. Emily walked ahead of me, stiff and trembling. I could see anger radiating off her, but beneath it, heartbreak. The drive home was torture. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just stared at the road ahead of us, jaw tight, eyes glistening with the kind of pain that made me hate myself more than I believed possible. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. "You're going to end it," she said quietly, but with steel in her voice. "You're going to stop seeing her. I don't care what you feel. You're done." "Emily, Dad," she said, turning to me with tears now spilling freely. "Mom would fall apart if she knew. You can't do this to her. You can't break her like that. You promised to take care of her. So take care of her." Her voice cracked on the last word. And in that moment, seeing her cry because of me, I felt like the worst version of myself. "I won't tell her," she added, wiping her face with shaking hands. "But only if you stop this now." I swallowed hard, choking on guilt. "Okay," I said. "I'll stop." She didn't believe me. And the truth is, neither did I. That day, something fragile between us cracked. I gained a secret I never wanted, the memory of my daughter looking at me like I was a stranger. And I lost the illusion that my double life could remain hidden. But most painfully of all, I realized that even seeing the hurt in Emily's eyes wasn't enough to kill what I felt for Sam. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Claire's shallow breathing beside me, every inhale and exhale a reminder of the life I was tearing apart, one hidden moment at a time. My mind replayed Emily's voice, her trembling anger, her tears hitting her coat sleeve as she wiped them away. Shame crawled under my skin like something alive. I had never seen disappointment like that directed at me, not even when she was a child and I missed a school event or forgot a promise. This was deeper, adult disappointment, knowing disappointment, the kind that says, "You're not who I thought you were." When the sun rose, I had the outline of a decision in my mind, not a real decision, not something I had chosen from strength, but the desperate shape of a bargain born of fear. Fear of losing my family, fear of breaking my wife, fear of becoming someone my daughter could never forgive. I told myself I would end things with Sam. By noon, I still hadn't done it. At the bank, she looked at me with the same quiet sadness she'd had the day before, as if she had already braced herself for the inevitable. There was no accusation in her eyes, just resignation. And that, somehow, made everything worse. During lunch, we sat outside behind the building, hidden from the street. The chill in the air didn't bother me as much as the heaviness in my chest. Sam wrapped her arms around herself. "She won't forgive me," she whispered, avoiding my gaze. "Your daughter." I could see it in her face. "She shouldn't have spoken to you that way," I murmured. "She was right too," Sam said softly. "We crossed a line we both knew we shouldn't cross, and now someone innocent got dragged into it." Innocent. The word felt like a knife. I knew then. She expected me to say it. To tell her it was over. To give her the mercy of clarity so she wouldn't be caught in the no-man's land of hope and dread. But when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Not, "I can't see you anymore." Not, "This needs to stop." Not even, "I'm sorry," because I didn't want it to be over. Not really. Not in any way that mattered. Sam looked at me for a long moment, then sighed, her breath trembling. "Daniel, we won't survive this. Not without hurting people, and not without hurting each other." "I know," I whispered. "I don't want to force you into anything. I never did." I reached out and took her hand before I could stop myself. "I don't feel forced. I feel..." But the sentence collapsed in my throat. I didn't know how to finish it without betraying someone. She squeezed my hand gently, a gesture both comforting and agonizing. "Your daughter saw us. Your wife may not know yet, but she feels something. Women always do. You're being pulled apart from every side." "And you?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Aren't you being pulled too?" She gave a sad little smile. "Of course I am, but I'm used to choosing the safe option. You're not." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her I wasn't some coward who only chose safety. But when I pictured Claire, frail, fragile, whispering her gratitude into the dark, I knew Sam was right. That night, after work, Emily cornered me in the kitchen. Her eyes were puffy, exhausted, but determined. "Did you tell her?" she asked, arms crossed. "Yes," I lied, because the truth felt like a grenade. "And you ended it?" "Yes." Another lie. A cowardly, trembling lie. Emily stared at me long enough that I wondered if she could hear the truth pulsing under my skin. Then she let out a long breath and nodded, though doubt still clouded her expression. "I'm trusting you," she said quietly. "Don't make me regret it." The weight of that trust felt unbearable. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed while Claire slept. The glow from the hallway light fell softly across her face. She looked peaceful, almost childlike. And I felt a wave of guilt so strong I had to put my head in my hands. I whispered a promise to myself, end it tomorrow, for real this time. But I knew, even as I said the words, that I didn't have the strength. Not yet. Fear was driving me, not resolve. Fear of breaking my daughter's heart. Fear of breaking my wife's spirit. Fear of breaking whatever fragile thing Sam and I had created. A promise made in fear isn't a promise at all. It's a placeholder. A flimsy wall against something stronger than you're ready to face. And as I went to bed that night, listening to Claire's breathing, feeling the phantom warmth of Sam's hand still lingering in mine, I understood a truth I didn't want to admit. I hadn't ended anything. I had only postponed the inevitable. Because no matter how loudly fear screamed at me, my heart wasn't done. The Monday after everything happened felt like walking into a storm with no shelter. I got ready for work the way a man prepares for a funeral, slow, heavy, distracted, each movement weighted with dread. Emily had already gone to school when I came downstairs. Claire was sitting at the kitchen table, wrapped in her usual soft blanket, sipping tea. She gave me a tired smile. "You're leaving early today," she said gently. I nodded, my throat tight. I've got a lot to catch up on. The lie burned, but I swallowed it. It felt like the only language I still spoke. Driving to the bank, I tried rehearsing what I would say to Sam. something clean, something final, something that would sever the tie before it strangled the rest of my life. But every sentence dissolved before it fully formed. How do you end something that made you feel alive for the first time in years? How do you tell someone who understands your soul that they can't be in your life anymore? I had no answers, only guilt, only longing. When I walked into the bank, Sam was already at her station. She looked up, and in an instant, I hated myself for coming so close to losing her. Her expression held so many things: sadness, fear, tenderness, apology, and something else too: restraint. She knew we were walking on thin ice, and she was trying to protect me, even now. "Morning," she whispered. "Morning." That was all we said, but everything unsaid pressed between us like a heartbeat. All morning I tried to focus on work, transactions, receipts, balancing drawers. But I felt her presence with a painful clarity, as if a string ran from her chest to mine, tugging at me whenever she shifted in her seat or laughed softly with another coworker or brushed her hair behind her ear. I knew I needed to speak to her, to make the choice I'd promised Emily, to end whatever was left of us. But courage refused to come. Every time I imagined letting her go, my chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Finally, during a short lull between customers, Sam stepped away from her station to gather deposit slips. When she walked past me, she paused, just long enough for her shoulder to briefly brush mine, a touch that looked accidental to anyone watching, but to me, it felt like a plea. "Please don't disappear on me." Or maybe it was this instead: "Please don't make me the one who ends this." At lunch, she didn't ask me to join her. She sat alone at a small table in the break room, hands cupped around her mug, eyes fixed on the window. I stood in the doorway for a long moment before sitting across from her. Neither of us touched our food. Finally, she spoke. "I don't want to make your life harder," she whispered. "You're not," I lied. She gave a small, sad smile, the kind people wear when they know the truth hurts too much to say aloud. "Your daughter was right to be upset," she continued. "She's scared for her mother. You can't put her through something like this." "I know." "You should end it," she said softly, "before it destroys everything." My throat tightened. "Do you want me to?" Her eyes lifted to mine, shining, hurting. "That's not the question," she said. "The question is whether you can live with yourself if you don't." I looked away because I didn't know the answer. Not really. She reached across the table then, hesitating, and touched my hand. Barely. A brush of her fingers, warm and trembling. "Daniel, you deserve happiness. I just don't know if I'm meant to be the person who gives it to you." Her words tore through me. I wanted to argue. I wanted to pull her close, to say that happiness wasn't a luxury I could walk away from anymore. But then I pictured Claire lying in bed, whispering thank you for taking care of me. I pictured Emily's tearful, trembling face, and the guilt returned with crushing force. I pulled my hand back. Her breath hitched, but she nodded, accepting the message I couldn't speak. The rest of the day felt suffocating. Every minute dragged like an eternity. Every stolen glance felt like a goodbye. And every time I looked at Sam, I saw her trying to be strong for both of us. When the day finally ended, we walked out of the bank together. The parking lot was empty, the air cold, the sky turning lavender with sunset. It would have been the perfect moment to say something, anything, that made sense of the chaos between us. But the words died in my throat. "Take care of yourself," she said quietly. "You too." We stood there for another second, suspended between choices we weren't ready to make. Then she turned and walked to her car. I watched her go, feeling something inside me tear so quietly it didn't make a sound. But it left a wound I knew would never fully close. I had tried to end it. Truly, I had. But as I drove home alone, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white, the truth settled heavily on my chest. I hadn't released her, and my heart had no intention of letting go. The night everything shifted didn't begin with a confrontation. It didn't begin with raised voices, accusations, or the sharp crack of truth landing between two people who have avoided it for years. It began with silence, the kind that hums in the air like a warning you're too afraid to listen to. Claire and I had just gone to bed. The lamp on her nightstand cast a faint amber glow over the room, softening the edges of everything. She lay curled on her side, wrapped in the pale blue blanket she always used when her joints ached. I was exhausted from pretending all day, pretending to end something I couldn't end, pretending to be steady when I was unraveling inside. I turned off the lamp and settled into the darkness, hoping sleep would numb the ache in my chest. But after a moment, I heard her voice. Small, fragile, almost lost in the shadows. "Daniel?" I froze. "Yeah? Can I talk to you?" Her tone made my stomach knot. I rolled onto my back, staring into the darkness. "Of course." There was a long pause. I could hear her wrestling with words. Then she whispered, "I love you so much." Not a dramatic declaration, not something romantic. It sounded like a plea, a trembling offering from someone afraid of the answer she would get back. I swallowed hard. "I love you too." She let out a breath that didn't sound like relief. It sounded like mourning. "Thank you," she murmured, "for taking care of me, for always being here. I know I'm not easy. I know I need more help than most wives do." "Claire, don't say that." "But it's true." Her voice cracked. "Some days, I can't even stand long enough to make dinner. You work all day and still come home and support me. You stay. You don't complain." She hesitated. "And I'm scared," she whispered. "Scared that one day you won't want to anymore." I felt something in my chest collapse inward. She wasn't accusing me. She wasn't angry. She was afraid. Afraid in a way I had never seen her before. "Claire," I said softly, "where is this coming from?" Another pause. Then, in a voice so faint it barely existed, "I feel like I'm losing you." The words gutted me. I turned toward her, but she kept her back to me. Her shoulders were trembling. At first, I thought she was cold. Then I realized she was crying, quietly, desperately, trying to hide it, the way people do when they're terrified of what the truth might confirm. I reached out and touched her shoulder. She flinched, not because she didn't want me, because she wanted me too much and feared that wanting was no longer mutual. "I'm right here," I whispered. "But for how long?" she asked, her voice breaking. "If you ever met someone who could give you the things I can't, someone who wasn't sick, someone who wasn't tired all the time, would you leave me?" My heart seized. My breath caught. In the darkness, I didn't need to see her face to know her tears had soaked into her pillow. I could hear them, every shaky inhale, every thread of fear tangled in her words. She wasn't making accusations. She wasn't pointing fingers. She was confessing a terror she'd clearly been carrying alone. The question sat between us like a blade. "Claire," I said, my voice unsteady, "why would you even ask that?" "Because I feel it," she whispered. "You're distant. You're quiet. You look tired in a way that has nothing to do with work. I keep trying to tell myself it's just stress, but I don't know anymore." She covered her face with her hands. "I'm so scared of losing you, Daniel." And then the worst part, the part I will never forget. She reached behind her blindly and found my hand, gripping it with a desperation that made my throat burn. Not angry, not suspicious, just afraid. Afraid of losing the one person she trusted. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to confess. I wanted to free myself from the lie that was poisoning every corner of my life. But how do you tell a crying, fragile woman, your wife, that her worst fear is real? You don't. You lie, not to save yourself, to spare her. So I did. I lied. No, I whispered. I would never leave you. She sobbed once, a sound so raw it carved me open. And then she pulled my hand to her chest and held it there as if anchoring herself to a promise she believed was genuine. But her tears told me something else, something far more devastating. She knew. Maybe not everything, maybe not specifics, but she knew enough. She felt the shift, the distance, the thinning of something that once felt solid. She sensed the shadow between us. Women always know before you speak. They know before you even admit it to yourself. As she cried silently in the dark, clinging to my hand like it was the last piece of safety she had left, a thought pierced me so violently I almost gasped. I wasn't just betraying her body. I was betraying her fear, her fragility, her trust. And the truth was suddenly, painfully clear. I could lose everything with one confession, one slip, one choice. And I wasn't sure which terrified me more. The thought of losing Claire, or the thought of losing Sam. There are questions that land softly, like raindrops, gentle, harmless, easy to answer. And then there are questions that split your life cleanly into before and after. Claire asked me one of those. A question so heavy, so quietly devastating, that even now I can still hear the tremor in her voice. It happened 2 nights after she cried in my arms. The house was quiet. Emily had gone to a friend's place to study, and the silence felt thick, filled with everything Claire wasn't saying out loud. She seemed better physically, less pale, breathing easier. But emotionally, she vibrated with a kind of nervous alertness that I couldn't ignore. She followed me with her eyes whenever I crossed a room, as if watching for signs I was slipping away. That night, we went to bed early. I was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. I turned off the light, lay down, and hoped I wouldn't think myself into pieces. But the moment my head touched the pillow, Claire whispered, "Daniel, are you awake?" I wasn't. But I lied. "Yeah, I need to ask you something." Her voice was steady, but underneath it was something soft and trembling, like a thread pulled too tight. I turned toward her. The dim light from the hallway spilled gently across her face. She wasn't crying, not yet, but her eyes were wide with fear. "What is it?" I asked. She hesitated, swallowing hard. "Be honest with me," she whispered. "I can handle the truth. I need to know." My chest tightened. When someone begins like that, nothing good follows. "What do you need to know?" I managed. She took a shaky breath and then asked the question that shattered me. "If you ever fell in love with another woman, truly fell in love, would you leave me?" For a moment, everything in the room went silent. I didn't hear the refrigerator hum in the kitchen, or the wind outside, or even Claire's breathing. It felt like the world held its breath. And all I could think was, she knows. Not in detail, not in certainty, but she knew something was wrong. She felt the absence I tried to hide. I stared at her, stunned. "Claire," I whispered, "why would you even think that?" "Because," she said, and her voice trembled. "You're different. You've been different for months. You come home distracted. You look tired even after you sleep. When I talk to you, you're here. But you're somewhere else, too." She blinked, her eyes glistening. "And I keep wondering if maybe your heart already left." My throat ached. I opened my mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Because what could I say? That she was imagining things? That she was wrong? That her fear had no foundation? Every answer sounded like a lie. She continued, a tear finally sliding down her cheek. I know I'm not the woman I used to be. I know you take care of me more than a husband should have to. And I hate that. I hate being a burden. I hate that my body fails me when all I want is to be enough for you. Claire, stop, I begged, but she shook her head. No, I need to finish. She reached out and touched my hand. Her fingers were cold and trembling. If you ever found someone who made you feel alive again, someone who wasn't sick, someone who didn't slow your life down, someone who made you smile the way you used to smile. Her voice cracked. Would you leave me to be with her? Her vulnerability crushed me. Not anger, not accusation, not bitterness, just fear, raw, naked fear. And in that moment, the weight of my betrayal hit harder than ever before. She wasn't fighting me. She wasn't trying to trap me. She was bracing herself for the day she believed she would lose me. I couldn't look her in the eyes. I couldn't tell her the truth. And I couldn't tell her the lie she needed without feeling like I was breaking something sacred inside myself. She whispered again, softer this time. Would you go? My heart was a war zone. Every truth I swallowed felt like a shard of glass cutting its way down. I finally managed to speak, but the words scraped out of me like something dying. No, I whispered. I wouldn't leave you. She closed her eyes, relief, sorrow, disbelief, gratitude, all blending into one heartbreaking expression. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Promise me." I hesitated. Just one breath, just a fraction of a second, but she felt it. That hesitation was a confession all by itself. I forced the promise out anyway. I promise. A promise built not from strength, but from cowardice. A promise meant to shield her, not because it was true, but because the truth would have destroyed her. She exhaled shakily and pulled my hand against her chest, as if anchoring me to the vow I'd just made. Only then did she begin to cry, quiet, relieved sobs that seemed to drain her fear drop by drop. But as she held me, believing the lie, I broke. Not outwardly, not in tears, but in the silent, collapsing way a man breaks when he realizes he has become impossible to love and impossible to leave. It wasn't Claire's question that destroyed me. It was her faith in my answer. There comes a point where a man stands at a crossroads and realizes that every road ahead of him leads to a kind of loss. No matter what direction he chooses, someone he loves will bleed for it. And sometimes that someone ends up being himself. That was the place I found myself trapped in, between two lives I wanted desperately to protect, and two families who had unknowingly become the battleground for my indecision. I spent the days after Claire's question in a kind of mental paralysis. On the surface, nothing had changed. I still went to work every morning. I still handed out deposit slips, counted bills, smiled mechanically at customers who believed I had my life in order. I still came home in the evenings to a wife who watched me with quiet desperation, and a daughter who studied my every move as if she expected me to disappear at any minute. But internally, I was splintering. I loved Claire in the way you love someone who has saved you without ever realizing they did. She had stood by me through years of struggle, illness, financial stress, things that would have broken other marriages. She had been my partner, my friend, the mother of my children. Even when the romance faded, even when the passion disappeared, the loyalty remained. And loyalty is not something I betray easily. But then there was Sam. Sam, who reminded me I was still a man with desires, not just a husband bound to duty. Sam, who made me laugh when I hadn't laughed in years. Sam, who saw me, not the caretaker, not the dependable one, not the man pretending to be fine, but the real me. The one buried under decades of responsibility. The one who wanted more. Every day I tried to convince myself that ending things with her was the right choice. The moral choice, the practical choice, the choice that would keep my family together and spare Claire any more pain. But morality and longing don't live in the same house. They don't even speak the same language. One afternoon at the bank, after a quiet morning of avoiding each other, Sam finally approached me during break. She didn't look angry, or hurt, or demanding. She just looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from holding yourself together out of sheer will. "We can't go on like this," she said gently. "I know. You're breaking yourself in half." "I know." She studied my face, her eyes softening. "Do you still want us?" It was a simple question, but answering it felt like stepping onto a minefield. If I said yes, I would be choosing pain for everyone involved. If I said no, I would be lying to her, to myself, to the part of me that had awakened because of her. My throat tightened. "I want everything I can't have," I whispered. Her breath caught, and she looked away. "Daniel, you can't live torn like this. It will destroy you." I almost laughed, but the sound came out broken. It already is. The worst part was that she wasn't pushing me to choose her. She wasn't asking me to leave Claire. She wasn't promising me a future, or demanding certainty, or even offering an escape. She just wanted the truth. "The thing is," she said quietly, "I don't know if I can walk away from you, but I also don't know if I can keep living in the middle of your guilt." She shook her head slowly. "I don't want to be the reason your family falls apart, and I don't want to be the reason you stay in a marriage that doesn't make you happy," I replied. We were trapped, two people who had found comfort in each other, but were tethered to lives larger than themselves. Her husband, my wife, our children, our vows, our shared loneliness. None of it had a clean solution. That night, I lay awake replaying every choice that had led me there. I imagined leaving Claire, packing a bag, telling her the truth, watching her break. I pictured Emily's face if she found out. The betrayal, the anger, the disappointment. I imagined Michael hearing the news and looking at me not as his father, but as a man who unraveled his mother. Then I imagined walking away from Sam, ending the only connection that made me feel alive, forcing myself back into the numbness I had lived with for years. Imagining her face as I told her goodbye, hurt in a way I didn't have words for. Every path led to a wound. Every choice came with a price. Some nights, I wondered if the real cowardice wasn't in choosing wrong, but in refusing to choose at all. The next day at work, Sam approached me again. This time, she didn't speak right away. She waited until we were alone, her expression careful. "If you walked away from your marriage," she said softly, "would you expect me to do the same?" It was a question I had avoided asking myself because I feared the answer. "I don't know," I admitted. She nodded slowly, but the flicker of pain in her eyes was unmistakable. That's what I thought. It wasn't a judgment, it wasn't anger, it was truth. And truth, once spoken, can't be undone. I realized then that what we had wasn't a path forward. It was a fault line. A crack that could break two families if we pushed too hard in either direction. And yet, when she touched my hand before walking away, barely a brush of her fingers, it felt like the only thing in my life that made sense. I was split between two worlds, two loves, two futures, and I knew with a clarity that left me hollow that no matter which life I chose, the other would haunt me forever. Fear doesn't always show up as panic or trembling hands. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a whisper that follows you through every room, reminding you of what you stand to lose. It settles into your bones, shaping every thought, every hesitation, every breath. And the fear that lived inside me during those weeks wasn't the fear of doing something wrong. It was the fear of doing something right for myself and watching the rest of my world collapse because of it. Every morning, I woke before the alarm. Not because I was rested, but because my mind refused to let me sleep. I would lie in the dim light, listening to Claire's soft breathing beside me, feeling the weight of her trust like a stone on my chest. Then I'd picture Sam, her smile, her warmth, the life I felt when she was near me, and the guilt would return, thick and suffocating. Wanting two lives at once is a special kind of torment. Wanting one while belonging to another is worse. I kept thinking the decision would eventually make itself, that something external would snap, forcing me to choose. But the truth is, both women were incredibly careful with my heart in their own ways. Claire held it in trembling, frightened hands. Sam held it gently, as if she didn't believe she deserved to keep it. And I didn't trust myself with it at all. One evening after dinner, Emily approached me while I was rinsing dishes. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, studying me with that sharp intuition only daughters possess. She didn't say anything at first, but the heaviness of her presence was impossible to ignore. "Dad," she finally said, "you're somewhere else again." I closed my eyes. "I'm tired, Em." "No," she said quietly. "This is something else. You look like you're standing on the edge of something big. I just hope you step the right way." Her voice cracked on the last words. She left the kitchen before I could respond, and I stood there, holding a dripping plate, feeling like the worst version of myself. Later that night, when Claire went to bed early, I sat alone in the living room with the lights off. The house was dark except for the soft glow from the street lamp outside. My thoughts were louder in the quiet. I kept replaying Claire's question, her tears, her fear, and then Sam's voice echoing just as painfully. "I don't know if I can walk away from you. I don't know if I can stay either." Every word left me more tangled. The next day at work, I couldn't keep avoiding the decision. Sam approached me during a moment of downtime. She looked fragile in a way that scared me, like she'd been carrying my indecision on her shoulders too. "Daniel," she said softly, "I can't keep pretending we're okay." "I know." She swallowed. "If loving you means hurting everyone around us, maybe it's not love. Maybe it's just longing." "No," I said immediately, too quickly. "It's not just longing." Her eyes flickered with pain. "Then what is it? Tell me." I opened my mouth, but the truth lodged in my throat. Happiness, possibility, a second chance at life. But I couldn't say any of that out loud, because the moment I admitted it, the moment I named what she meant to me, I would have to choose. And choosing her meant breaking Claire, breaking my children, breaking the family I had built. Sam saw the hesitation, the same hesitation that had been tearing me apart for weeks. She stepped back. "That's what I thought," she whispered, her voice brittle. "You don't know." "Sam, no, it's okay. I'm not angry." She forced a shaky smile. I don't want to be the reason your life falls apart." She walked away before I could answer, leaving me standing there with the truth rotting inside me. That night, I lay awake listening to Claire's breathing again, feeling the familiar weight of her hand resting near mine. She had drifted to sleep believing I was the same man she married, believing I still belonged entirely to her. And I wished, God, I wished, that the lie felt easier to hold. But the fear didn't let me rest. Fear of hurting Claire, fear of losing Sam, fear of choosing wrong, fear of choosing right. And underneath all of it, the deepest fear of all, that I already knew what I wanted, but lacked the courage to take it. Because wanting Sam didn't mean I didn't care for Claire. It meant I was human, flawed, torn, alive in the worst possible way. As the sun began to rise, painting the bedroom walls in pale gold, I understood something with painful clarity. I wasn't afraid of destroying my life. I was afraid of admitting which life I truly wanted. And until I found the courage to face that truth, I would remain suspended between two worlds, belonging to neither, breaking in both. Before you go, take a moment to reflect on everything we walked through today. If this story moved you, if it made you breathe a little deeper or look at love from a different angle, then don't leave without joining our community. Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss a story that might speak directly to where you are in life right now. And if you feel someone else needs to hear this, send it their way. Sometimes a single story can reach a heart we didn't even know was hurting. Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling this with me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. There's so much more to unfold.